Okay, bro. Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay. Imagine your life at peak impact. So you've
Mhm.
achieved kind of everything you're thinking of now, and it's banging. It's like the best reception, the best version of it, the whole thing. At that moment, I want you to draw your impact, whatever that means to you.
Pulling the sheet of paper and let's do it. And I promise I wasn't prepared for this. I did have some
It's
thoughts.
fine. You
Maybe
know,
I should do like a sketch before, but then I thought, but there's no point. Then
yeah, some
the whole point is
people,
to do.
in my past, like they've heard of this question when I was consulting and they would prepare, but like the problem is I always ask follow-up questions and you can't prepare for the questions even if you know them in
Yeah,
advance.
yeah, that's right. All right. Okay, there's a lot of detail. I'll send you a
Yeah.
photo, I think. All right.
All
But
right. Yeah.
in the
Uh-huh.
the way I started this drawing was in the middle. So I started by drawing this house.
Mhm.
And it's quite interesting that the first thing that I drew was a house. This is kind of it's representative
I
of
got it.
my I could
You
put
don't
it
have
down.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to leave it up. But yeah, explain.
So the house is a safe zone maybe or some like a place where I feel fulfilled somehow, and that's it's my spot. So it doesn't necessarily mean an actual house. It could be any place, it could be anywhere in the world. And from there, I have three ladders that if I feel like it, if I feel it's fun to go on those ladders, I can take them at any time, but I don't have to. I could just be in the house.
Mhm.
I just kind of say that I've reached the point where I don't need to do one or the other things,
Mhm.
but I do them because I like to do them. It's fun to do them, and I just choose which to do. The pyramid on the left is more it's the product side. And that one it was actually a triangle, and I made a pyramid later because it's more complex than just a triangle. Um,
Yeah.
but it is about, I think, finding one product that I could fully dedicate myself to. Yeah, I'm always going to experiment and create more
Mhm.
things, but I want one main thing that I say, all right, this is it. This is the thing that everything else revolves around. And that needs three components in my mind. There's a part in open source that I want to cover. There's a part in community, and obviously a part in MRR because for it to be that central component, it has to also bring enough income for it to be sustainable. Obviously,
Mhm.
for whatever means, it doesn't matter. And that's the left triangle part. The right side, we got a circle with a play button, and that represents the media side. They're somewhat interconnected because I think the way I build the product has to be somehow connected to the content that I'm making, and that's maybe via the YouTube channel or podcast and so on. So they're quite related, but I also want to have the option to just go on YouTube and shoot a video of something that I like. I did um, a small review for funny enough, Max Blade's desk hub. She
Mhm.
sent one
Yeah.
to me, but just doing that, just being able to fire the camera and do it and have fun with it. I want to have that as an option, as a separate. That's why they're kind of separate. But ultimately, I think the YouTube and the content creation part also fuels the growth of the product in some way or another.
Mhm.
And then the rectangle below is supposed to be a stick man raising some sort of weights, doing some, I don't know, bench press. I know it's the
Mhm.
I kind of lost
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
I reached my the limit of my drawing skills down there. But that represents, health, being active, being generally balanced as well. So I got to remember to also go down there and not fall into one or the other. And the interesting part why there are three of them and they go in each direction, I
Mhm.
think, is that there's some sort of balance in the middle that I need to figure out. So
Okay.
I can't just do one of them, I think. I need to balance them out because they're somehow equally important.
Do you think there's a reason why the I think I know the reason, but like you kind of put like the product and the media things like up top
Yeah.
and the health thing at the bottom. And then like you're also the way you're talking about it, you're like, oh yeah,
You know it. Yeah, you
bench
know it.
price or something, you know.
It's a lot easier to justify working on a product than going out for a workout. And it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to get lost in that and to say, yeah, I'll just spend, 3 more hours, whatever, because I need to get this done, than just go out for a workout. So that is
So you
more
feel like it's
challenging.
neglected?
Some days, yeah, some days for
Yeah.
sure. Some days for sure. So
Because I
I,
get
I
I
guess,
get that. Because like I've been building my product the last year and it's just like, whatever, 10-hour coding sessions, and then you're just like, I don't do anything.
yeah,
And like you're saying, like the time spent away from the rush of work, I guess,
yeah.
is just you can't justify it. You feel, you know, uh okay, the health thing is up to you, but it's just interesting to see the,
It's part of it, right?
you
It's
know,
part of it. I think in the long run, the other things might not work out without it. It's
that's the
yeah,
thing. Yeah. But I feel like if you, because I'm not a healthy person as well, like I'm a fat boy, like I like eating the whole
yeah.
thing. And I would guess if you take someone who's like in peak physical shape, they would draw the three things you drew side by side. It wouldn't be one down, way, way, way down, and two up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. It looks like an afterthought, which is, yeah,
Yeah.
it shows something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But I like it. So you're saying the product, you want to focus on a product that kind of gives you that sustainable, safe zone. And then the media is right now business, whatever, but like you want to like shift it or uh, add to it this kind of personal brand aspect of it that you
yeah,
feel is missing. So
yeah.
that's kind of like
Right.
the two things. All right. Uh, and let's say you reach that spot, right? You're in peak physical condition. You got the brand. People are interested in what that has to say. It's fun. They're like, hell yeah. And you got the product. It's doing good money. It's providing the safe zone. You're good. At that point in time, what are the best opportunities that you can attract? Like, what would be the best phone call you can get or the best email you can get for collaboration, for something? What is that?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, the product itself has to be made sustainable with my own two hands. So I need to know that this thing has PMF, it can sell, and I need to know that if I get someone else on board, that this thing can grow and grow at a reasonable, sustainable uh, pace, and also do it without external investment. So the best phone call could be just that person saying, "Hey, I saw your product. I have 10 years in marketing or whatever, and I would really like to collaborate with you on this and make this product go. I think it has huge potential, and I know exactly how to do it
Mm.
to get it to
That's
the next
that's
level."
something you might want now, right? Like, but let's say you're at the spot where the MRR is great, right? Like, just put yourself, like, try to imagine that position. You're there. You're in the house.
Yeah,
You're crushing it. It's
yeah.
growing.
I think still that would be to continue the growth, right? It wouldn't change that much. I think right now I wouldn't want to get that phone call because I want this to grow to a level that uh, I'm satisfied with, and to
What
a
is that
level
level?
that
Without
so
numbers, just like in terms of impact. Like, what maybe if you want to talk numbers like customers, like how many customers do you want it to have? Because the more
Yeah.
you think of your impact in the
Yeah.
world, the better the economics. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So say 100,000 customers, and out of those, maybe 10% paying, let's say, or
Mhm.
something like that. That could be a good ratio. And I think at that scale, I could also see myself not being able to manage the product entirely, because when you're building solo, you need to take care of support, you need to take care of all sorts of management operations around the product, you need to take care of marketing, and also keep building the product, keep
Mhm.
listening to users, and to do what essentially keeps them not churning, keeps
Mhm.
them around, and keeps them happy. So when I think that's, maybe it depends on the product, of course, but a scale like that would give me the confidence to say, all right, this is working out. I mean, I know it's working out. If I
Mhm.
would get just like a really good person to help me out with this, I could keep this going at a sustainable pace. But if it's just myself, I probably can't, because it's going to get, I'm going to burn out eventually.
I don't know. Like, let's kind of remove that eventuality or possibility from the equation and just try to get in the zone of just maximum success and uh, just excitement. Because the way you're talking about not working out, you know, I feel like the only thing that might bite you in the ass is health stuff. So, like, if you take care of health and you keep your passion, I don't think you're going to reach any block where it's like, I'm overwhelmed or I need help or whatever. Like, you can figure it out. And, there's so many people who are willing to, like you're saying, collaborate and help you out and all of that. So, uh, what did you got? Anyways, so
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
it's fine.
sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Um,
yeah, let's just remove that, kind of
yeah.
just get you in the place of peak power, right? Like, try
Mm,
to think of, like, the world is organizing to help you succeed. All right.
yeah.
And you get to that point, 10,000 customers, right? Uh, the nature of your product, we're going to get into the nature of your product. Seems like it's made for agencies,
Mhm.
because that's the kind of customer that's going to have a long-term value, right? Uh, so that's that, right? You're there. Imagine you're there.
Yeah.
Okay, you're there. You have like 10,000 agencies. They love it. They love it so much. The product maybe is grown to handle more use cases for agencies and stuff like that, right? And you crush it. At that
Yeah.
point, what is the best opportunity that can knock on your door?
Yeah. This is quite interesting. So yeah, obviously my thinking is usually more short term than this, because you got to think of what's the next step, and you rarely think, okay, I'm past the next step, and I'm past the 10 steps that gets me to where I want to be. Now, what drove me to follow these steps in the first place? So if what drove me to build this product and to do the marketing and to make it a success was to get to this step where it's sustainable, then I'll be at this point and think, well, I've done it. this
Yeah.
this is it. I've done it.
Okay.
Um, I've reached this peak. Feels pretty good here. I think I just keep it going as it is. But what I want to do now is help others, give the media part that I'm doing right now is community building, is
Mm.
trying to get other people to build a side project to make some money on the side. So what if now I've learned my lessons? I know I have sort of a recipe in my mind. I mean, I think I do now as well, but there's a lot that has to come together for a business to be wildly successful.
Mm.
And I start giving back to the community. I start teaching. I start,
But is that the best opportunity? Like, be a little, be a little selfish with it. Like, I'll give you an example, right?
yeah,
Uh, Mark Zuckerberg, right?
yeah,
He's reached like the pinnacle of success. He has whatever, the AI stuff, the VR stuff, the social network, all of that, right?
yeah,
He's now in a position to collaborate with some of the best fashion designers in the world. You know what I mean? Like just
yeah,
as fun, like for
yeah, yeah.
fun,
Okay,
just
selfish
hang out with
fun.
them,
Okay,
talk
okay,
about
okay.
glasses,
Yeah,
learn about whatever. And like
yeah,
to me, that seems super exciting, right? Get to that level of success where I can like collaborate with like Pharrell on a song because I've developed something in the technology or whatever, something like that.
yeah,
So what is exciting for you like that? Like you've reached this level of because we're assuming you've also have the brand, right?
yeah,
Like what you're talking about, helping people and whatever, you're already doing that.
yeah,
And you're already gonna grow that and you've reached that peak. So it's not so you're there.
yeah,
What is an exciting opportunity? Like something that's just that'll be amazing.
yeah. Yeah, I see. So, like in a selfish sense, what you kind of you're in this position of power, right? You can do some things that you couldn't do before because people, for whatever reason, have some a different level of trust or just
Yeah, and
what
it's status. Just like, the
status.
more
Yeah,
status you have, the more people want to be around you, and the higher status people also want to be around you. So like this is just
yeah,
hierarchies and it's like existed since yeah,
yeah,
since before time, I think. So
yeah, yeah.
that's
Man, that's good. I think, yeah. So taking it, to a level that I've never thought about this, but
that's the whole point of this this
what
workshop,
what
just to get
what
you thinking about it.
when you're at that level, what could be good is to get next to the tech giants, right? Get next to Vercel, become a brand like Vercel, or you cannot get close to Google, right? But Vercel maybe, and similar company, Superbase or whatever you big tech
Yeah,
that's
what you're
doing
wearing,
well.
Sentry, Post Hub. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and having them integrate with your product, having them, be tightly integrated so they deliver signups and they basically want you to cover their technology because they think if they don't then they're missing out on the market. They're kind of they need to work with you because you're kind of a big deal.
Hell
So I
yeah.
think that would
But
be.
but why? Like let's start visualizing
Mm,
it like in
mm.
detail. Like why would someone like Guillermo wanna
Yeah,
chat with you?
so say the technology that I've built is just ahead of everyone else. No one else could do it the same way. There's basically the combination of AI and underlying
Yeah.
technology is just different than everyone else. So
Yeah.
they maybe haven't cracked it yet, or it's just not as good. And they look at it and think, well, we can't do the same, but what we can do is collaborate and get this thing in our stack just through integration and sort of they do this with some services. I forget what it's called, like Upstash. Like they don't have or they didn't used to have some request limiting, right? But these guys did. They had the service is pretty good. They not a lot of competitors and the exact same service anyway. So Vercel just funnels customers to them because they can't possibly build all of these use cases, right? So one of those, and just getting to sit down, yeah, with Guillermo and say, yeah, let's figure out a way to collaborate, and that will be further, on this, like we're talking again. It's not common. Maybe I'm a pretty selfless person usually, but this is in a selfish way. There will also be status because, hey, look at me now. I'm working with
Mm,
Vercel. Vercel's basically knocking at my door, asking me to figure out
mm.
if they can collaborate somehow because they feel like they're missing out on a part of the market if
But
they don't.
they're gonna collaborate anyways. You know what I mean? Like, why can't it be you? Like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like there's a lot of blocks
Mm.
you have against, it's humility, which is good.
Yeah.
I like the humility that, oh, who am I, or all of that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but
That's what's going through my head.
yeah, but at the same time, um, it can't be to the point of self-sabotage, right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you have to, they say, I forgot who said it. A smart person can hold like two conflicting ideas at the same time in
Yeah.
their mind. And humility is one of those things that you do have to balance with an acknowledgement of status and ego and the reality of it, and saying, all right, I do want to do these things selfishly, but I can balance it with the humility. I can balance it with giving. I can balance it with selflessness. So it's about, I think it's about balance. That way you don't automatically get into like self-sabotage things, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, that's not for me. Oh, you start saying no to things that are being offered to you because you have this kind of unbalanced humility, I think. So I want to keep you here just because I'm like, this is important for drive, right? Like, if you know what the big prize is, you know it, and it doesn't have to happen. It's just a matter of, like, I always say, goals are orienting uh
Yeah.
tools, right? They're not necessarily, I want the goal. It's just, I want to be oriented that way. I want to be useful in that way. I want to be valuable in that way, right? So Guillermo, whoever, the post hoc team, all these people, um, when they want to like collaborate with an influencer or a big brand, right? What are they looking for?
Yeah. Right. I think that's, yeah, that's the thing to work on because right now I'm looking around at these collaborations, and I can't figure exactly, what gets you in that position except for being popular enough that, you have a brand that is in a position of strength that Guillermo, he knows about it. He's seen it. He's seen it all over. He's seen it on a billboard in San Francisco, right? You are that brand, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just uh, there's this hype machine behind. There's this coolness factor that makes them want to think, yeah, we got to collaborate with these. These guys are going places. They have a cool brand.
Yeah, talk about
We,
the open source and the community part of the
mm,
drawing,
mm,
because that I feel like is when people want to collaborate with people, it's because they have access to communities maybe they don't have access to, or
exactly.
a
Yeah, yeah. So
closeness. Yeah. So what
that
is this open source community part of what you were talking about? Like, how do you
yeah,
want to contribute there?
I'm a strong believer that a technology product these days has to be open source to have credibility, and has to be open source to flourish through the community, to have an ecosystem, of people expanding it, building things, doing things on top of it, remixing it, and having the security of, if this product is to, go away, especially for a bootstrap product, right? There's a bigger chance with that, let's be honest, than a VC back. It can go away, but in a bootstrap product, I can literally get hit by a car and it goes away. But an open source community gives you the trust that no matter what happens, this will exist in some form or another. It was always open source. You can self-host it, or you can um, pick it up from there. You can fork it, and I want that also for the status. I think I've always wanted to be part of the open source community to give back, because none of the stuff that I'm building would be possible without open source libraries, open source code in general. So I want to be, the in the same position that someone else says, well, if it wasn't for Dan open sourcing this, I couldn't have built my business. It just
Mhm.
wasn't possible. I
So you want to
didn't
be a
have.
leader in like the open source community.
Yeah, yeah, or at least, yeah, a leader. I don't know if they have leaders, but they have these sort of rock star figures, right?
Yeah,
Where yeah,
don't let the language mix you up, right? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
another one of these things where like creates blocks, right? Being like too serious about the language. It's fine, like I'm just
yeah,
talking about like what like Linus Torvalds, right? He's
yeah,
a
yeah,
he's a
yeah,
leader in the open source community. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
well,
Right, right.
and something like that
Yeah,
is kind of what you
for sure,
aspire.
for sure. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about you a little bit. What is your proudest moment in your life?
Proudest moment has to be when I built a product, and I didn't know much about it back then, but I built this product for a long time, and I finally launched it after, yeah, maybe a year. I was so far in my own head with it, because I thought this is how you build a product. You just need to make something technically brilliant, something so amazing that people see it and think, oh my God, this is a good product. Obviously, if you don't talk to users, there's just no way for you to find that. But I spent so much time working on this, and it has made $0. And then one day I launch it, and it coincided with the product hunt launch, which did get the product of the day at the time. It was actually my second product hunt launch. I did launch a tool back in the day, which failed miserably, but this one didn't, and it got quite a few sales that day, and it got number one product of the day on product hunt. And I was so proud that this just came out from nothing. I built this. I made this myself.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to create a thing that people pay for. Now, maybe a few weeks after I realized, well, I didn't have to spend all this time, and I didn't have to prepare all this much. And actually, I should have talked to users and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But just that day, that moment, I'll never forget the moment. It felt so good. It felt like I've discovered something new in me. That I've discovered this unlocked this part in me that now can create anything and sell it and have people be excited about it. And that was also a fantastic thing, that there was so much support that day. There were so many people saying, oh, this looks cool, this, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try this, I love how this looks, and so on. And it just made me very proud to do
Which
that.
product was that?
That was Clubber.
Clubber?
That was Clubber. Yeah, yeah.
And what did it do?
Clubber is a tool for API endpoint testing. So it's mostly for performance testing. You could give it some one or more API endpoints and just say, well, all right, hammer it with 1,000 requests and see how it does. That is what's the response time, and you get some charts, and
Very cool.
you basically it's a simplified version of some really complex enterprisey tools that
Mm-hmm.
exist out there that also have an enterprise price tag. And I thought, well, I could approach this from a different angle. I can get directly to developers with this tool and bypass the enterprise stuff and have it as a small app, as opposed to like this gigantic enterprise server type thing. So
So
yeah.
how did you start the hype about it? Like how did you market it in the beginning? Like what like pre product can't launch, right? You said
Hmm.
you launched it as soon as you it was ready and it flopped, and then you kind of built up some hype for it and then launched it again, something like that.
I did not. At the time, I thought the product needs to be ready before you do the hype. So I
Mhm.
actually did the hype
Okay.
together with the launch, and I missed out on that because when you do the hype, you also indirectly get some feedback. You or
Mhm.
even before that, you kind of go into the right direction. You maybe even get. I didn't get any beta testers, right? I just went for the launch. I didn't get anything. So the hype came afterwards, in a way, and I think the launch itself was a lot of hype. The way I marketed the product was as a simple way to achieve the same that you could do with these tools, but in a with an intuitive UI, and overall, the moat was around UX UI. So
Mhm.
pleasure to use, looks good, a lot of clever things in the UI, which was also why it took so long to build. A lot of clever things that makes this easier to use,
Mhm.
essentially. And with these invisible UX things that just make a product a delight to use. So once you kind of get into it, you have this fuzzy feeling of a nice, polished product that you want to talk about somehow. So yeah, that was my overall approach. And obviously, this is a very expensive experiment to do and a very risky experiment, because if you do a great UX for a product that doesn't have PMF,
Mhm.
then too bad. I mean, no one's
But
gonna
that's a
know about
choosing
your
problem.
UX.
Like I feel like a lot of times you kind of do a retrospective. What if I did that? I would
Mm.
have gotten here faster. And I feel like that's not that honest because you did do the super
Yeah,
good UI. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
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 that's
yeah,
it's like,
yeah. In hindsight, yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing. That's the thing.
yeah,
So, but that is what building your own products is about. It's a long journey of looking back and thinking, well, I should have done it this way because now I know. And you
yeah,
do this like no matter where you are, you will still have this feeling. I think that there's just
yeah. I
yeah.
agree. And testing it again is kind of will the advice is good, right? Like, so is there like a second proudest moment, like something that happened maybe after or before?
Hmm. Um yeah, so with Clubber that kind of fizzled out. It just gave me the strength to build more things, and I built a ton of things. Then I
Mhm.
think the second proudest moment was the first time we got a sponsorship on our podcast,
Mhm.
and this came out of the blue. So just get the background on the podcast. We didn't even know we're making a podcast. We were entrenched in this back in it's not that far back ago, but 2023, it seems like back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the
Yeah,
day.
you were just at a
Uh,
conference and you're like, that conference?
yeah, right. We used to use hashtags, which have completely disappeared in the meantime. And then we had the hashtag build in public
Yeah.
community, and everyone was doing things, sharing them, and putting this hashtag. And then we would go in there, and every pretty much every morning, and you'd have your coffee and just, yeah, what are people doing, and connect with them. And it was a wonderful community. I'm actually sad that that's kind of faded out now. So one day we jumped on a live, whatever you call them on Twitter back then, uh, space. And we just went through these updates. It was Sandra and I. We just went through these updates and thought it's kind of fun to, instead of just going individually through them, just go together and comment on them, because it just brought us uh, together. We could also do some small talk, because we had this problem of not really catching up that often, and that was our opportunity. So we did that, and people tuned in, and then they said we're going to do it again. And then afterthought was maybe we should record this. Like, well, why don't we
Hmm.
record this so people can listen to it because not everyone can join live, and then we record it. And then shortly after, we thought, well, why don't we get the audio out and we publish it as a podcast?
Okay.
And then before you know it, we're on Spotify or an Apple Podcast, and we have a website. We build the website live while doing the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and no, we're really moving fast, trying to figure out what this is.
Oh.
And one day we thought, well, we should get sponsors. We should monetize it. We should make this
Mm-hmm.
sustainable. So I think it was a tweet where we talked about it, and somehow someone from Post Hog was tagged, and everyone kind of jumped in and said, "Yeah, it would be awesome if you sponsor these guys." And then we were recording that. At that time, we were recording, I think, 3 times a week. It was just crazy. It was we were
Mm-hmm.
just churning out
Mm-hmm.
episode after episode, trying to keep up with edits. And during the episode, I get the mail that someone at Posthog actually purchased the sponsorship. And it
Oh.
was just mind blowing that this
Yeah.
thing that we kind of figure out, it was the classic changing the engine of the airplane
Mm-hmm.
in flight and sort of
Mm-hmm.
changing the jet engine, and
And you had
this
the
happened.
sponsorship out like on the website, like buy a sponsorship? Or
Yeah, that's how
uh,
we did it.
uh,
We just put, so classic indie hacker
mm-hmm.
style. We just put a payment link with sponsor us, thinking no one's gonna do it, but if you don't put it out, also no
No
one's
one's
gonna
gonna,
do
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Hell yeah.
so what's there to lose? Just put it there,
I love
and
it.
I can't remember what it was, maybe $500 or something.
Amazing.
I think we still have that, but we do have Sentry as a sponsor, which is just like some days I wake up and I can't be more grateful that this has happened
Yeah.
somehow in in a way that wasn't forced. Everything happened either in these small steps where it logically connected to what we were doing and in a response to either our audience or some
Hell
sort
yeah.
of sign that we found. We went to the next level. So that's how we got into doing video first. We did that on X, and then we thought, well, if it's video, why is it not on YouTube? And
Mm-hmm.
and why don't we do guests at some point? So it was just step by step, and then we got the next sponsor and the next sponsor. And yeah, the moment when we got Post Hog, that was the proud moment, because it was from nothing to something. Like these moments where you create something and you just wait and wait and wait, and then something happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's it doesn't matter if it's a sponsorship for $500 or what. It doesn't matter. It's just there was nothing before and now there is, and you've built this. You've created this thing. That makes me very proud.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Um, I love the story. What's your story? Speaking of stories,
How back? A lot for
whatever, whenever your story started, like the story you're living
I
right
was
now.
born, and
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I think
that's your
I
history, but no, the story
yeah,
that you're living.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
the hero.
yeah. So,
You're the
so
hero of the story right now. Well, when
yeah.
did it start?
I think I like to start this right after when I was still studying. I was studying something called multimedia design.
Hmm.
Actually, I was not really sure what I'm doing. I just knew I was interested in design. I sucked at programming completely, like
Hmm.
throughout my high school. And so I just couldn't get it. I didn't get it. It was just, I don't understand this. How does everyone get it? And then I had this lecture that was very pragmatic about his way of teaching was very pragmatic, and it made it fun somehow. I got into it eventually. We started, we were doing this like people today will never understand this, but we were copying cool things from the web. That's how we, like in a lecture, we would get, oh, this is a cool website. All right, here's how you do the same. And then we would have to inspect element, and go through it and to
Nice.
make a copy of that thing. And that way you learn how to build things. You hit all sorts of issues. So that got me excited. I started to program, and I think when it clicked, it made me realize that similar to what I said with Clubber, that was, I think with Clubber it was more like I can sell anything, but with programming back then it was I can build it everything, right?
Hmm.
And when I realized that, I thought, well, if I can build everything, I need to make this work. I need to, build my own things. So because of that, I actually never had a regular full-time job anywhere. Like I've always tried to build things on my own. The first thing that I did was it was like a part-time gig that lasted just for a few months. And
Hmm.
then during the part-time gig, I started a company with five other guys.
Okay.
And that was like the first startup that I did. Imagine, like, still barely finished my studies. If I don't even think I finished my degree, but
Yeah.
we made the startup because if I can build anything, what's the
Mhm.
problem? I can I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
it. Like when you're young and foolish and you think you can. Maybe this is the vibe coding generation right now. That yeah, I can use AI to build anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can, but yeah.
It's
So
it's a better name than Gen Z, by the way. We're the vibe coding generation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a better ring to
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah, so that the startup, and I think
Mhm.
the startup was it's a good exercise. I got into consulting, so we're trying to build this digital signage startup,
Mhm.
which is the both the software and the hardware. So we had some software that could it's like a lightweight CMS for managing content on the screen, and
Okay.
the screen was powered by an Android device that we found somewhere in China, and we
Mhm.
sort of put Linux on it and made it all work. It was pretty cool. It could also work with really huge screens. So
Mhm.
one of the most amazing moments was that we somehow got into a contract with a mall that
Mhm.
wanted this huge 3 by 6 meters. I don't know what that's in feet. Someone,
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah, yeah,
Huge
yeah.
screen that um, had to be outside as
Mhm.
well. So we said yes to it immediately. We have never done that. We had no idea what it takes
Mhm.
to put a screen outside.
Yeah.
We're in Denmark. It goes below zero. It's freezing. It's wind. It's rainy. It's a horrible place to put a screen
Yeah, yeah,
outside.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, we figured it out. We did it. And when we didn't have these cool things, we would do consulting just to get some cash flow. So completely
Mhm.
bootstrap. We didn't raise.
I like.
Also at the time, it felt very scary to raise because we didn't have anything.
Mhm.
Maybe not the correct approach. If I, and
Yeah.
again
So
in
you
hindsight,
had the signing thing plus consulting,
yes.
and then what happened?
And then I realized this is not working out because I don't know how to do a business, and I don't know how to grow this. I don't know how to get customers. I like building things, but the business part, I just don't know it. And I also thought a lot of the other people didn't. So I just quit. I just sold my part of the business. Can't remember how much I had at the time. I think 25%. I just sold it, went out, and did freelancing consulting for a while because I loved the building part. I did a lot of building. I did a lot of industries, jumping through all sorts of stuff. Sometimes real estate, sometimes fintech. Sometimes I even did hydrology freelancing gigs, which is
Mhm.
just like
Yeah. What's
3D, and
hydrology?
it's so I was working on a web app that could do flooding simulations with 3D objects and
That's awesome. That's
terrain.
hilarious.
It's just like
Yeah.
you don't really come across that. It's not it's
Mhm.
ultra niche, but it was really fun to build. So I built and I built, And while I was building these things, I realized, well, these guys, they're paying me pretty good money to use my skills. Why can't I use my skills and
To
make
make
the
money.
money that they're, because they're obviously like, there is a
Yeah.
point where it's worth paying me, but they still make more revenue to make a profit out of this. So why don't I just go for that?
Mhm.
Yeah, famous last words. But at that moment, I thought, well, maybe I should look around and see what problems are happening in this area. Like, I just didn't know. How do you come up with an idea? Well, let me just look around in my day to day and figure out, is there some product I could build that would help? And this is actually how Clubber came to be,
Mhm.
because we had this problem in our API, and this company had no tooling to actually debug it. So I tell the team that had the problem in the API, there was different departments, different teams, whatever.
Mhm.
I tell there's a problem and it doesn't work with concurrency, like it's really bad. And they say, well, it looks good on our end. Like, how can you prove it?
Mhm.
What is the problem? So then I made a script that would just output a table with response times, and I just managed to do. I think I did something like, okay, if you have 20 parallel requests, you can see that it slows down and starts to fail. And I just sent that over, and they were like, all right, there's a problem. And that was the moment where I
Mhm.
realized, well, this could be an actual app with a UI that does the
Mhm.
same thing and is used in a similar circumstance, just for a quick test. And yeah, since then I've been building over 10 products. Some of them are more towards the communities. I have one called Hunted Space that it's not monetized, but it was to essentially help people launching on Product Hunt to just get a bit of a insight on launch day and to get essentially a better chance at being in the top 10. And a lot of different attempts. Some are SaaS, some are apps, some are
Mhm.
yeah, just small
Yeah,
web
you have
apps.
the list on your like view more section,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
So
that
you went and
is,
built all of that, right? And then
yeah,
when did you start ShipXN
yeah,
and then Page UI, right? Because that's what we're getting
yeah, yeah,
into
yeah,
in the
exactly.
workshop, right?
So towards the end of this, I always build these products on the side, but
Mhm.
consulting was my main thing.
Mhm.
Also because in Denmark, because taxes are so high, it's just really difficult to make it as a bootstrap entrepreneur. It's just
Mhm.
the worst possible country to do that. So it was always a side thing. But I thought, well, if one of them happens to make it, then I'll see what happens then. But in the meantime, I'll still do consulting because it's good money, and uh, it would feel pretty stupid not to do it.
Yeah.
So when I launched ShipXN, that was in, I think, November 2023,
Mhm.
maybe late October, around that time. And I put it up. I put a few. So this was completely different. Dan, it wasn't the Dan that's prepared. I didn't even have an MVP. I
Mhm.
launched a video of a proof of concept that I had locally,
Mhm.
put a pre-order link, showed the video, and put it up on X. And the order kept coming. The orders kept coming.
Mhm.
And first 48 hours made a few $1,000. And I
Mhm.
look at this and I think, hey, wait a second. $1,000 in a couple of days, that's more than I can do with consulting. Like that's actually a better way to achieve the same. So maybe I should
Mhm.
focus on that for a while.
Yeah.
So obviously it didn't go forever, that pre-order, but it was enough. I think by December, half of my income or half of my revenue was from my side
When
projects,
did
and the
you
other
launch
half,
again? This was December?
that was November 2023, and then December was the second month of
Okay, yeah. Okay.
after. So in November, I had this POC. You couldn't, like, a lot of the people bought a pre-order of it and then
Mhm.
slowly rolled out a V1. And
Mm-hmm.
then in December it was fully out. It was okay, now it's released,
Mm-hmm.
now it's ready.
Yeah.
So December also went pretty well, and that's surprising because December is usually not a good month because a lot of people kind of don't want to be in front of the computer, especially second half of December.
Mm-hmm.
um but it was 50-50 freelancing and the product,
Amazing.
and that was
Mm-hmm.
the time where I thought, well, I could actually choose either or. It will be the same. So for a while I chose the product, but it was pretty difficult to keep it at this level for many reasons. But I think it was a lot of competition in the space. It was, I think, competition. The market was saturated, but also it was quite difficult for me to differentiate myself from the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I did struggle a lot with the marketing because I knew it was different, but it was hard to articulate, and I still don't think I kind of got it because I was going. So I went quite in a specific niche initially, and then I broadened the niche because I thought, okay, I proved it that it works in the niche.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to expand to get a bigger audience,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a mistake. I should have stayed in my niche, and it was hard to recover from that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is still, I think that is still the way to go, to find a niche. I think you've mentioned one possible niche. I don't think the niche matters. I think it's just finding a niche and doing an amazing job in that niche so people love it. They talk about it. You've completely blown them away. They're happy to pay for the product, and then figuring out how to get as many as you can from that niche. And then when you realize, well, that we've kind of got everyone, like there's not that much space to grow, that's when you expand to maybe another niche, or just wider audience. That's my current thought on it anyway.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called, like, it has a name. It's called like the bowling pin strategy, and it is important because targeting a niche is not about the niche really. It's about the language, and because the niche uses a certain vocabulary and knows specific things, and when you can talk in their language, you're connecting with them. And when you generalize it, you're now connecting with no one.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
So it's just a matter of finding the niche within the person. So like Apple does the rebel niche in people, like the
Yeah.
people who think different, and
Hmm.
so they are using that vocabulary correctly and to hit you in that person or whatever. So it's I think identity is a better word than niche. It's like you need the specific identity for the
Yeah.
product so you can communicate. Uh, Excellent.
Yeah,
So shipping's
absolutely.
in, you're like, it's kind of like boilerplate on steroids, right?
Hmm.
Uh, you get all the things minus the app part. So all the marketing side of building
Hmm. Hmm.
done. What At what point do you say, okay, you said it fizzled out because you went broad, and then you're like, okay, paid you out, the new thing, the component library. When does that come into play?
So that came into play when I did realize that by talking to customers, that a lot of them were looking into this part, landing page, blog, and slash marketing public website
Mm.
part, that they're looking for an easy way to do that, but they're sick and tired of paying $20 a month to Framer to have a maximum of 1,000 visitors, whatever it is, which is these pretty insane limitations that just makes them very expensive, even
Mm.
in the short term, definitely in the medium term. So a lot of them were looking for an easy way to make landing pages without being too technical, but at the same time owning the code so they don't go the subscription route. And that's also not something I want to do in the medium term as well, to host people's website. I think there's a huge responsibility. So yeah, page
Mm,
UI is a response to that, to the user request that they want to focus on landing pages. And it was the component system for it that was built into shipping for in the first place, but it was
mm,
never advertised as much. It was sort of a bullet point in the pricing section that you get components for it, because that's also what you
mm,
get with it. You get components to build everything essentially, and
mm,
they all fit in together. They all work with the themes that you choose. There's a lot of customization on themes and fonts and so on. But page UI also came with templates, and the templates work very well also as a lead magnet. And a lot of people look at the templates and they think they're high quality, and they are. All the templates are actually inspired from real bootstrap products that have proven to be successful and have good conversion. So when
mm,
you see the templates, they're not the kind of things that things are flying, that there's
mm,
your scrolls hijacked and they're just crazy. No,
mm,
no, no, because don't don't think those convert that well. There's probably, if everything's animated, then nothing really draws your attention, right?
mm,
uh, they are focused on selling, on putting social proof out there. So if someone sees this web page, they are convinced that they should buy it, right?
mm.
That's basically it. And those templates, I took them out of context and I thought, well, what if you could use AI and on top of this component system create more of these templates, but on autopilot essentially, right? And that could be first a tool for me, but then I thought, well, why shouldn't actual users have this tool? Why couldn't they just go in and ask for whatever they're building and get these landing pages that potentially convert well, hopefully generate the whole thing in one go,
Mm.
and be niched to people that want to make a landing page and they just
Who are
don't
these
have
people?
the
Like,
skills.
so, so,
Mm.
so you're saying, okay, ShipXN, the landing page UI thing, page UI
Yeah,
was embedded in it, and
yeah,
you kind of the users will get into the target markets soon, but the users were like, I need to just use the components, or the
yeah,
components is the best part of it, and then you're like, okay, let's just make it its own product, right?
yeah. That
And you did that, and
the
then
latter. Yeah, yeah.
did it pick up like the page UI?
It did, yeah, and that feeds into the open source aspect of it that we've discussed
Mhm,
previously. So it's my most successful open source product anyway. It has
mhm,
what is it, 1.4 thousand, 1.4K
mhm.
stars on GitHub, which for me, yeah, it's not at the size of React or one of these libraries, but it's pretty difficult
Amazing.
to
And you're
get
not
there.
selling this.
No, this is completely free. Everything, templates and components, they are free to use, but
Yeah.
right now it acts as a funnel for ShipXN. But based on what I said before,
Oh, because
that
ShipXN
is
gives you the entire thing wrapped all
exactly,
together in a
exactly, yeah,
code
yeah.
base and all of it.
So you can use the open source part, but you gotta go through the installation steps. You gotta go through all this, or here's a very easy to customize it, and you press a few buttons, you press create, and then you have it. It's done, it's deployed, and you're good.
It's
So
deployed even, so it's almost like
yeah,
Webflow.
it's yes and no. So it deploys it, but after it's deployed, it's out of my control. You've deployed it to your own account. You've deployed it in your own GitHub repository, in your I
Oh,
don't
it
have
creates the
access to it.
code, and then you
Yeah,
have to go
exactly,
and host it
exactly.
somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a
Okay.
deploy button for Netlify or Vercel, so it can
Oh,
actually
you can
just,
integrate it. Oh,
yeah, you
okay.
can integrate it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the opposite of what we talked before. I'm
Mm-hmm.
integrating into Vercel, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that just makes it very easy to, I think I say on the website it takes 5 minutes. It literally takes 5 minutes from nothing to go pressing deploy and getting it on Vercel, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend more time customizing things, of course, but you don't have to. So that was the idea with page UI, but that's too many steps because and there's just ShipXN is a different type of product, really,
Yeah.
and I want to, I'll leave that as it is. I'll still keep it around. It's still making good revenue, but
Because I can see
I
it be like a web flow, but for landing pages.
exactly, yeah,
But you say something like there's something you're saying here that I think is not serving you, which you're saying it's not Webflow because I don't handle the hosting, but you integrate with Vercel and whatever. You can say hosting by Vercel or hosting by Netlify, your choice. You
yeah,
pick. You only
yeah,
pay for the maintenance because
yeah.
it's per year, right?
Yeah, right now it is. The thing that I will build will likely have a subscription model. Right now it has a license model. So you get a license and then you can use it for there's either a yearly or even a lifetime license that you can get. And I think that is also yeah, it doesn't fit well with this concept of hosting it somewhere. But at the moment, I haven't decided if this is the correct model or the model is you pay for generating landing page and then you export it to whatever format you like, and then that's your code, and then it's more like a developer tool than you get it in cursor and then you start vibe coding on, that's it. That and
This
I
is the new thing,
don't.
or this is page UI or
This is the
ShipXN?
new thing. This is the new
Okay, so
thing that I
then,
want to.
so okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we get into the new thing, what do you say your superpowers are? Because I feel like there's a strong design situation going on.
Yes, yes, yeah, you completely nailed that.
Okay.
So yeah, the superpower power is a solid technical foundation with a good eye for design, and combining those two, usually developers in two camps. They're either hardcore backend, they
Mm-hmm.
cannot design to save their life, or they're hardcore design UX, but
Mm-hmm.
technically they're not that good. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I can understand both. I can do both well. And that enables me to create a product that technically is pretty clever, but also it looks good at the end of the day.
Okay, so you're kind of like a well-rounded. It's not even a full stack because full stack doesn't, I think, doesn't even describe it. You know some good
Yeah.
backend because you built Clubber, which is an API tester,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you have good backend skills and you're real good at design.
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Pitch the new offer. So like, what is the new thing? What is it called? And pitch.
I haven't figured out a name yet. Uh,
Okay, but okay, describe it then.
yeah,
Just
yeah, I'll just
pitch it. We'll
describe it.
we'll we'll we'll, we'll give it a placeholder name
Yeah,
after you describe
yeah, please. It could be, yeah, whatever. Shipping's an AI.
it.
The new thing, you go in, you can ask it to build any landing page whatsoever.
Mhm.
You give it a description of your product, of what you want to build, and it figures out a design brief behind the scenes. It's a AI agent based system, so it kind of figures out what you want. It makes a structure, and then it actually writes the code to create the landing page. And it's the learnings from ShipXN will come into play, that you can afterwards customize it, you can theme it, you can make it according to your brand, and that website is based on page UI. So it's a combination of what I've learned by building these two products.
Yeah.
So also things are hopefully going to convert well. There are a lot of rules that will ensure that the output has enough, for example, social proof and enough call to actions to set you up for a high converting website. And the initial target group that I want to use this is mobile developers, iOS, Android developers. And that is super specific because I think there is a subset of those that are very skilled in their craft that can make great looking apps, but they cannot do web development. They're missing out. They're missing out on marketing. They're missing out on SEO. They're missing out on a lot of opportunities on the web, and they don't have the skills to do it. So that's where I want to start with. Is it the correct one? I don't know, but I think you've touched
We'll
upon
get
it
yeah,
before.
we'll get into
Yeah,
the target market stuff
yeah, yeah,
soon.
yeah.
But
So
so
yeah,
right now,
that
just to clarify what this is, it's
yeah,
you can create a website, a landing page
yeah,
based on language. So that's the
yes,
input is using
yes,
language, you can create it. You don't need to add
no,
components and whatever. You just use
no,
language, you describe, and then it creates kind of a first draft of a landing page.
yeah,
And then once it's there, you can customize it kind of ship accent style
yeah,
or
yeah,
okay. So the difference between that and Bolt or whatever, like I haven't used them really, but like
yeah,
I understand VO and Lovable and all these things,
yeah.
is that there's no customized option.
Yeah, that's one thing. The I think the main difference is that those are general tools, so they will generically make whatever you ask them to make, but it's not going to be good. It's going to be average at best. So, if you've tried to ask it to make a landing page, it's going to do a best guess, but it's not the type of landing page I'll look at and say, yeah, this is going to work great. It's going to convert. This is going to convince the visitors that they can trust you. And, none of that.
But it's
It's
a
just
quality
not
thing,
good
right?
enough.
Like if
It's a
let's say
quality
you
thing.
give
Yeah. Yeah.
like a quality of input, like if I have like
Exactly.
the landing page formula,
Mm,
and if I give that to an LLM, I'm just assuming someone does that, right? Like I want a
yeah.
landing page. The easiest way for them is to take that, take a couple of screenshots of websites they like, and then add that to whatever
Yeah.
one of these things, and it will output something that is is good. Like
Better. Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's
know what I'm
better.
saying?
Yeah.
Like whenever
Hmm.
you're thinking about something, you kind of want to do a little game theory, and the summary of game theory is that if there's an opportunity to cheat or whatever, reduce
Yeah.
cost, people are going to find it out and do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the quality of output, I'm not convinced there's a business argument because it's just a matter of okay, I can go and do those things. Some I can read a guide that's free that can tell me how to do those things, and I can boom, like I'm competing with you with a blog post, right?
Yeah.
In terms of output. So that is a convenience feature, which is great, you know, that you have all of that stuff, you have it programmed that this is what is converting copy looks like, maybe ask follow-up questions, whatever it is, the onboarding, all of that is convenience. But what is it? How is it different features wise from
Yes.
Lovable?
So the way it's different feature wise is that this is a thing that is technically better that output wise. The code that it creates, it's better. It's made in a way that you can pick it up and easily change it and add sections to it without having to
Regenerate.
regenerate the whole
So what
landing
is that?
page.
So it's Lovable with customization, with
Exactly.
with like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
customization UI layer
Yeah.
that is easy to
If you want to think about it in so there's two worlds colliding here. There's the world of boilerplates, which was there's a huge hype around it, and maybe still is to some extent. Why do people do that? Is because even if you can ask AI to do something from scratch, it's just not as efficient to do it than to have the code generated through a command line tool, for example. But even so, there's the configuration part. And all of a sudden, you spend 2 days just, the classic. You want to start working on something, the first 2 days, you're just setting up things. By the time you're done, you lost your enthusiasm to even build that thing.
Mhm.
So there's that world, which it does contain behind the scenes, but plus the component system and customization layer that these tools do not have. Even if you can get them to do it, it's very difficult to change them.
Yes.
And the bigger the thing you generate, the slower it gets. The AI has this,
Mhm.
at the moment anyway, has this limitation of when one file gets too big, then just the feedback loop is so slow. Every time you want to make a small change to, just do two different buttons, it has to write the whole thing,
Mhm.
and that it
It's
gets
stupid.
slower
Yeah,
and slower.
it's so
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It is just not the correct model. So I think the key point here is that from the boilerplate world, we already knew how to do this very well. We had these ideas that saved a lot of time. Now we're reinventing the wheel from a different angle, but it's not
mm,
there yet. It's not that fast. And in my opinion, it will never make sense to generate the whole thing from scratch because you're just using so many tokens to do what essentially is the same process over and over again, right? So this one will combine them in the most efficient way. So you save your time, you save your tokens, but you also get a better result without knowing what to ask for. Because I think you said something interesting that if you know how to make the prompt and have the right screenshots and have all the sections and are pretty good at marketing, then
mhm.
you can maybe achieve the same. But all of those steps, how long does it take you to do that? Maybe it takes you 2 hours to do it. Would you
Mhm.
rather pay $10 or $20 or a hundred
Yeah,
dollars to not spend the thing?
but it's what you're doing is wrapping a service in a prompt,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the value of that. I haven't seen it convert. Like I haven't seen anyone sell just that, right? Like imagine we just remove everything else
Mm-hmm.
and just say, hey, you pay $20 or whatever, $10, ask it to create a prompt, like just a prompt creator, right?
Yeah.
You tell me what you want, I'll give you the prompt to give it to Lovable or all of these both, whatever,
Yeah.
even just straight OpenAI or Cloud, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can you sell that just that? If that is because that's what you're describing, you're
All
saying,
right. That would be
you know what I mean? Like you
the
can't sell it.
Chat GPT wrapper era, right? Where everyone was just sort of abstracting a couple prompts, working for a few
Mhm.
days, figuring out, okay, how can we make a prompt that actually does something
Yeah, but you are
believable in
still
the end?
interfacing with chat, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and some people bought that, but they all fizzled out. Like it's not a
yeah,
sustainable business. But what I'm saying is to have an opportunity to get a leg up on Lovable and all this guy, and maybe like move into that niche and dominate it, so that it, there needs to be actual features
yeah.
that are not just prompt engineering, right?
Yes. So
And that feature is the customized
yeah, there's
option.
a customization for sure. That's one of them. But I think where the business value lies is every time you put a prompt in, we have these. There's a POC going on, right? But
Mm.
there's this agent going out through hundreds of different specifications of how to build a thing. Some of them are, specific to whatever we determined your prompt should build, whatever category, subcategory. There's a lot of analysis on that initial prompt, and then it goes through hundreds of specifications to figure out how to model these components in such a way that you get a landing point page that's relevant to whatever you're trying to do. And I think the difference between making a meta prompt that does that
Mhm.
to actually getting a landing page is that all of these hundreds of specifications that we're putting in, they are distilled knowledge of years of experience looking at
Mhm.
landing pages, figuring out what converts and what doesn't. And obviously, if you spend the same time doing the same thing, you will have that knowledge, but a prompt in itself will have a superficial version of that. You'll never get to the quality level that you can get from the actual specifications that are
Like the
across
agentic
these files.
workflow behind
It's an
it.
agentic workflow. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah. And you have this pool of different options, and it basically makes a design concept behind the scenes, and it reasons, how could we make this design
But
concept
you
convert?
haven't communicated any of that in the pitch so far. Like we're just getting into it, and
No.
it's because I'm asking questions, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the specifics matter because people, when it comes to money, for some reason, just like they just think too much about it, especially when it's
Yeah.
for a business use, right? Like if it's a
Yeah.
hat, you're like, what, $70? You think maybe I like this hat to pay 70
Yeah.
bucks, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when it's like software and stuff like that, they're so value oriented,
Yeah.
right? So what is the
So
agentic workflow then? The
the the vision
overview
with
of.
it, the vision with it, and
Mm,
I don't think we're gonna start with this because it's just we need to test out the product with the target group. But the vision is that while it's reasoning about this and it's going through the various specifications, it will prompt you back with questions to make this better for you. So, it's gonna come back and say, well, what's your target group? Or, we've identified this is the target group. Uh, is this correct? Just
mm,
sort of a back and forth based on,
checks. Yeah.
yeah, exactly what the agentic workflow is cooking up behind the scenes. You don't need to know the full thing because there's a lot of it, but it will feel a little bit like a collaboration. Like you have this whatever
So it's like a
colleague
collaboration assistant more than a.
assistant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you have this assistant that will just ask the right things to get the best possible output. And that's also the thing with
Because the
engineering a
positioning
prompt.
is going to matter here, right? Like I
Yeah.
understand you don't want to reveal based on like whatever proprietary knowledge or stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. But what I'm saying is without communicating the that position where it's like, hey, this is not a chatbot or an assistant like
Mm,
whatever. It's a
yeah.
collaborator. You give it kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah. It's
new
it's
name.
it's
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
AI collaborator
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
builds
Yeah.
landing pages. Now
Yeah.
it's interesting because it's like, okay, he's not saying assistant, he's not saying AI, whatever. He's saying collaborator. What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it checks in with you. It
Yeah.
asks you questions. It's not just fulfilling orders,
Yeah.
right? So
Exactly.
so that collaboration aspect is a different thing.
That's the long-term
Collaboration.
vision. Yeah. Yeah. That's and obviously now it's interesting to put agentic workflows now, but this is what it is. I'm not sure if this is the correct positioning, but behind the scenes there's these agents talking. There's a designer agent, there's a content writer, and they're kind of talking to each other, figuring out.
So it's
There's
a
a
team.
developer.
That's
It's
another
a team.
way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
positioning it. Like so,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
got the
Yeah.
agents. Okay, so there's customization. Customization
Yeah.
is one differentiating factor,
Yeah.
and then agentic team is
Yeah.
another differentiating factor. Is there anything else that makes this different? And it's niche to landing pages
Um, the last
currently.
part that will be a bit like a cherry on top
Mhm.
is that this is still built on top of the ShipXN API. So one of the options. You could build a landing page, you could run with that, you could get it out, you can, deploy it, do whatever you want, just get the source code, that's it. But you also have the ability to do what I imagine will be some sort of full-blown application deployment, where the Shipyxon boilerplate part is also connected to this landing page. And you can say, well, add authentication, add a dashboard, add terms and conditions, add privacy policy, add this thing you can already do in Shipyxon, by the way.
Mm.
You could just like add a blog, just toggle on different features that you want to build, but you will just have to do extra prompting. If you're in Lovable, extra prompting. Okay, now let's add a blog. Let's start with design for that. All of this, which is going to be a toggle, you get it set up, and it's going to respect the customization that you did before with the theming, with the colors, with everything, and you will all of a sudden get a huge amount of value from this technical. Usually, AI breaks down when you keep adding these many things. Like the
Mm.
context gets too big, right? So okay, add a dashboard, make it a smart app, make blogs, do this, make this one look good as well, put a screenshot, put that. It just takes a lot of time,
Yeah,
and it's getting slower and slower. So but here, this is already possible. I could put toggles and enable of these with one click, and
because you
all of a
got the ship
sudden,
accent thing. So you got
yeah,
like the create and customize package,
yeah,
but then you got the create and deploy, like create,
yeah,
customize, and deploy package, which is like, hey, you can deploy this, and
yes,
then maybe there's like, because it's a landing page boilerplate thing, right?
yeah,
And maybe you can then add the authentication thing for the actual app, and you can create the app also in the thing.
yeah, and all of a sudden you have a starting point for a SaaS with a marketing side that's pretty good. You had the agent team worked it out, but you also have the foundation for actually everything's there. People can log into your site. You can start building some functionality and sell this thing ultimately.
What about
So
Stripe integration? Is that something?
yeah, and that's also in it that you can. I'm not sure it's going to be Stripe or some
Whatever
MR,
payments, like, I mean, like, can you
yeah,
accept payments
Polar or
for
something. Yeah,
for an
yeah,
app?
yeah. That's the idea. Yeah, that's the idea. So you kind of
So it's like a
that's the
SaaS,
strength.
one-click SaaS deployment,
One
basically.
click SaaS deployment, but with so much knowledge built in that you can get it, and you can prompt your way to it. But this one you get maybe in 10-20 minutes, like for the whole thing with the
I
back and
love it.
forth,
It's
instead
great.
of spending days, literal days. And the thing that you're going to get after those days, if you vibe code the whole thing, is just going to be less scale. It's
An
not
app,
going to be
yeah.
as high quality. Yeah, so that's also long term, you're going to have a pretty good foundation to actually make this a business, and to maybe have thousands of users. There's no problem with that. You could keep
Mm.
going.
Because there's also like a, not for this product, but maybe for ShipXN, an opportunity where these you can just upload your vibe coded app, and then you kind of just wrap it in a
Oh, I
SaaS and
love
make
that.
it
Yeah,
one-click deployment,
yeah, I love that. Yeah, so upload your whatever
whatever.
POC that you've cooked up in Lovable, and then actually get these nice things around it.
Yeah, the
And
security,
yeah,
the
yeah,
authentication, all of that, like,
yeah,
wrap all that up.
yeah, that's very good. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a good idea. I don't know
yeah,
if it's for this product, but it can all be part of the same product, like, because you're building this kind of like, let's just call it the service, right? You're
it's a
building this
service.
service
Yeah, it's
where
a
it's
service.
like
Yeah, yeah,
there's three parts to it, right?
yeah.
You can create using language, just landing page, not app yet, but everything around the app.
Yeah.
Why can't you just add app? Like, what's
It
Lovable
could
doing different?
It could be app. Yeah, it could be app because the thing that Lovable is doing on top is the the stuff that I said you could toggle on and off, but only in Lovable you need to actually prompt it to do the same. The difference is that with Lovable you can customize it in any way, shape, or format. You control everything about the AI. So you could say if you do a blog, you need to do it in this particular way, and in the at least in the first stage of this product you won't have that much control over it, like minimal control. It's basically on or off, right? So Lovable will still give you full complete control over whatever's on your mind. You can do it. This one will kind of force you into a more boilerplate structure, but hopefully the customization that you have on top, which is mostly what you do in Lovable anyway, right? You ask, oh, change the color, add the background, add an
Yeah, but that's
image,
different.
moves.
Like what I'm picturing when you're talking about this, right? I'm
Mm.
picturing uh let's say you got tabs on the top, right?
Yeah,
And one of them is um let's start with the app first. Like let's just
yeah.
assume that there was an app portion to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Create your app, right? In one tab.
Mm-hmm.
And they create the app.
Mm-hmm.
Now what's the next step? I need to wrap it in a landing page and
Mm-hmm.
enable payments and enable authentication
Yeah,
and security, right?
yeah.
So the second tab is landing page,
Mm-hmm.
landing, and then create a landing page, and it uses the app kind
Yeah,
of to understand what it's building, right? And then
yeah,
also uses the agentic workflow that you created to
yeah,
create a converting landing page,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got that. And then you on both you can customize using kind of the detail oriented approach where it's like, no, I need, you know, HSL this value. I need the borders to be actually
Yeah,
more
yeah,
rounded. Whatever. You have this kind of fine tuning
yeah,
detail, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you can change the copy or whatever. That's correct. Then the third tab is deploy using Vercel, using Netlify, using whatever, and it deploys the whole thing. And now you got full app
Yeah,
ecosystem prompting
yeah,
customization with the boilerplates in the bank
yeah,
to have all of that. Is is
yeah.
is this
That's the vision.
correct?
That's the long term vision of what
Well,
this
how long
will be.
term? Like, because you already have the ship XM part, like all the landing page and auth
Yeah.
and whatever built in.
So it it depends on the first demo sessions that we'll have. It depends on what people will say. Well, this is good enough for me to deploy. So one thing that can happen is they go in and they say, well, this is really cool, but our users are in Germany as well. So we need I18N to be available for this to be an option. Otherwise, we can't use the product. We now all of a sudden we need to figure out, how we translate the stuff, how we do a language selector and all that. Um,
But
so
you can
if that,
restrict that. You can restrict that by just saying
yeah,
it's just for English and just target
it could
English
be, yeah,
users.
it could be. So I think the the first version will be focusing more on this entire flow that you've described, even though some parts are missing from it. So maybe so you go through the agentic assistant design, that's fine, but it's not that clever yet. It doesn't ask you that many things, or maybe it doesn't ask you anything at all to begin with. It just creates something. Then you don't have as much customization as you want, but you have some customization. Then when you deploy it, maybe you have database authentication, but you don't have Stripe yet, right? But you
Mm.
can still go through the entire flow, and I think that could be possible in V1. But then each of these three tabs that let's call them tabs could be expanded in different ways. So yeah, if you take the agent, that could just be a lot more interactive, and you could also do more edits
And you can build
perhaps.
the agentic workflows for all three because the create
You
app,
could,
because the
yeah,
three tabs is create app, create landing, and deploy, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I think that is a big differentiating factor than all these just create the app.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
you gotta have either the create the app tab existing or easy upload. Like you go create on Lovable and the import from Lovable is super easy,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and then it creates the landing and deploys, with
Yeah,
everything, as like a basically you're killing MVP builders.
pretty much. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be like a, you know an MVP builder, that the last MVP builder you'll ever need, basically, right? Because
Yeah.
it could do the full thing, and it could do it at a technically sound level where you actually can also expand on it and not just have
And how
MVP.
what's
And
the
then
pricing on this?
I was thinking of doing a subscription, and I was thinking to have a number of um, generations. We call them generations, but whenever you
Yeah.
create a landing page and you go through the agentic flow, that whole process of generation,
Yeah.
that will be capped out on different plans. So if you get the lowest plan, you'll have five of those for $19, and basically higher plans will have more of those.
Mm.
So if you do more edits, or you do more tries, and or more apps like this, every time you go, you'll use
So
some of
$20
these.
per 5 generations.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
$20 per 5 generations, and then the deployment is
I would think that's included, that in the first version at least, that there
you can
won't be
deploy it
any.
on Vercel and then they handle your billing hosting.
Yeah, yeah. We won't be looking into that because
Okay, hear me out because I don't think this there's $20 per 5 generations. Okay. Let's ask this question and then I'll come back with my idea for
yeah,
the business model, right?
yeah.
Who are you serving?
We will initially serve the niche of developers that are probably either already working in a company that's doing apps, or have their own apps, and they do not have web development skills to create a landing page that will actually increase their reach,
Mhm.
grow their app. So specifically developers, because the first version will eventually require you to get some code, and even though you're not good at that code, you'll have to understand it to some extent. So it's not a no code tool yet.
Yeah, so developers, what kind of developers? Like 9 to 5ers, basically?
9 to 5ers, specifically mobile app developers would be my first choice to be able to
Why
talk to
mobile app
them as well.
developers?
Because from the maybe somewhat superficial research that I've done, a lot of the iOS apps either don't have a website at all, which is crazy, or they have, a screenshot download on the App Store website, and that's it. And it's a huge missed opportunity. They mostly do App Store keyword optimization, ASO, and they don't have any SEO presence. They don't, invest in this at all. And my assumption is that I could be wrong, is because the barrier is too high. The stuff that you do on the daily is too different from doing this on the web. They don't have the skills, and then they just end up focusing on what they know. yeah, instead of doing this. So I
Okay,
want to.
the problem with your target market, yeah, this whole business model right now is it's not making a lot of sense to me
Mhm,
because I'm a big believer of diverting money flow,
mhm,
right? It's you're not gonna like these people are not paying for any kind of landing page. They're not solving that problem. It's an unsolved
mm,
problem for them, and it will remain unsolved. It's not a matter of, hey, let me go play with some AI for a
mm,
couple of
mm,
minutes. You know what I mean? Uh, and they're good at prompting and all of that. Uh, I think, and I'm just thinking with you here,
mhm,
the MVP agency is going to be your biggest customer, especially if you can give them that deployment thing and they can deploy for their customers
mhm,
and build the landing page. Because usually MVP agency owners or even like consultants or what are they called? Freelancers.
mhm,
Uh, they also don't know anything about marketing,
mhm.
right? And they would want to
Yeah,
offer, hey, we'll build you that and a landing page and the whole thing. You know,
yeah,
the whole like the three tab thing, create app, create landing, deploy also is because let's put it this way: the 9 to 5 after they're done. You now have to go find a new customer.
yeah,
You know what I mean? To keep revenue coming. And with an MVP agency, they're paying every month.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
And you
that's
don't
a
have
good
to go
point.
find a new one every time
Yeah,
they your product works. Because if your product
yeah,
works, they're not coming back.
that's a yeah. That's the difference. Is that I think with the 9 to 5ers, there's just a lot more of them, but you constantly need to get new ones, and maybe they will return, but that would be in a year, or who knows, or not at all.
But
But yeah, it
they're in the
was.
same communities the MVP agency people are.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? But like if you can write your language in a way that resonates
yeah,
to an MVP agency owner
yeah,
and maybe resonates with a 9 to 5, because they're
mm,
gonna be like, oh my God, he's giving people who build MVPs that much power. I can use some of that. Like it's one of those things
mm,
where it's like, the people who buy whatever tools that are made for high level musicians or
yeah.
like, they just started learning the saxophone and they go buy like whatever a $10,000 saxophone, that has insane sound or whatever,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, sure, that product is not made for them. All the language that was created for them is not made for them, but it attracts the wider market,
yeah,
right? So
hmm,
like when you target this super insane use case
yeah,
of like MVP agency developers that know what good code looks like. So they're going to care about the backend being based on a
yeah,
whatever and all that. And you
yeah,
can speak to them in a way that convinces them to use you instead of using their stupid boilerplate or whatever.
yeah,
Now, the people who are just aware of that industry, which 9 to 5 developers are, because they're thinking
yeah.
maybe I can just go and do this myself. You know what I mean? Like, and
That's a
and
good.
maybe you
Yeah, yeah.
just
That's a good
empower
point.
them to
Yeah,
go and be an MVP agency.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a
You know what
good
I mean?
point.
And then you can also charge more. that's
So also a
that's
step
yeah,
above. Yeah,
yeah.
because that's the other thing is then maybe if you take even a step further back, the differences between going B2B and B2C, more or less, because you all of a sudden you you don't target an individual, not the same way. You, as you say, you target the agency, which might be comprised of multiple individuals that are the same, but you can have a different pricing model that in general B2B products can have ridiculous pricing because they will have the resources to pay for it if they see the value in the product. My concern with that is if this prompts this kind of pricing, it will be quite difficult to still get the individual developers to
But
buy it,
you
right?
go like bottom up
Mm-hmm.
uh, pricing model where it's like you get the developer first and they kind of convince the agency owner, hey, bro,
Yeah.
check this out, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So you don't want to make it so cheap that any customer can get it,
Yeah.
but you don't want to make it so expensive that, a kind
The
of
individual can't try
industrious
it. Yeah.
employee
Mm-hmm.
who's like, let me just
Yeah.
use this, it's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
give the same generation. So if
Yeah.
you can push the price higher than 20 for five
Yeah.
generations, like
Yeah. So
even
the
if you do
reason,
like a weekly pricing thing instead of like with
oh, interesting.
obviously
Yeah.
rate limits in the back or something,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but weekly
So,
pricing for especially just a landing page,
yeah,
weekly pricing
could
makes
work.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I was considering a higher price, but I was just brainstorming. But what I came back to is, well, if I go on Lovable or V0, they have this $19, I think, a month, which is actually they're probably just burning money, right? But they both VC back. They have a lot to burn. They want to be the first. I can't do it. I can't give you an entire month of whatever you want for $19. But people will look at Level and say, well, do I pay $50 to this guy or $19 for unlimited usage? So that was sort of my limiting factor. But if the $19 is, you pay $19 either way, but one of them, is for a weekly use, as you say,
Mm.
perhaps that could work. Perhaps, because you also don't need Lovable for an entire month after you've
Yeah,
done.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's a problem in this model
yeah,
of just code generation because
yeah,
like
yeah,
it no one's like you're saying gonna stay on for months. They're gonna try it a couple of times. You're gonna be cool, just move on.
yeah,
And if something
yeah, yeah,
takes off, they're done. Like it's not like Lovable can then take the existing code base and then iterate on it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Some food for thought there.
okay, so
Mm-hmm.
we talked about yeah, like let's talk about these people a little more, right? What are their pains? Because like thinking about pains can help you with the language. Uh, so the target you said developers. Let's say let's break them up into two and agree on the targets, right? Developers who want to start MVP agencies
Mm-hmm.
or existing MVP agency owners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
For the developers who want to start the MVP, what are their pains?
They can't design. They just they can't do this web page design. They don't know how to do it. They don't have the skills. So
I would
they
argue that's not their biggest pain. I think that is the MVP agency owner's biggest pain
mm,
is
yep.
is that they don't have the design skills. I think the developer's biggest pain is time.
Yeah. That's the amount of configuration need to do to get
Mm.
something up and running to a hello world level is just too long. It's just too much time wasted getting a bare bones thing up that
Yeah,
contains everything you need to to actually take this
because
further.
I like
So
your pitch in
mm, mm,
in ShipXN, right? You
yeah,
like sends out ship something today,
yeah,
deploy in minutes, then yeah, exactly. Not lock
yeah.
in, but there's an. I feel like I just wrote something else. Some ship something today. Yeah.
And
Did you
save
say
days of
something
work.
about 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's below. Yeah, in 5 minutes, go from nothing to deployed code base.
Yeah, where is this?
It is on Shipix and landing pages below the main title.
Oh, I'm in pricing. All right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. In 5 minutes, go from nothing to deploy. Like that is such a good like I feel like that's converting a lot of developers for me.
Yeah,
Because they're like, what?
yeah,
So that hits the time thing. But
yeah.
then you're also hitting the marketing and design thing with
Mm-hmm.
this like landing page focus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That must be. uh it is connected because also when you have to do it and you don't know how, that also takes more time, right? So
Mhm.
I think, yeah, you can twist all of the things that this app does into a time saving bucket. Everything it does. So
Yeah, so
you
it's those three things. So it's time,
yeah,
can't design, can't market.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we talked about positioning as like the collaboration thing is the positioning thing, or is it the the marketing lean on
It has to be marketing.
the marketing lean, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
Because I feel like the agent, uh, whatever we call it, assistant thing is it's cool as a technological showcase, but it's not. You could create hype around it with it, but in the end, it's an implementation detail of how the thing works. It's not. It doesn't really affect the the product in the same way. It makes a better output, but it's not the product. The product is that you get this full package at the end of the day through the means of the assistant plus code base plus customization,
yeah,
all of
like
that. So
deployment ready code, basically.
yeah. That's the yeah.
All right. So what's the magic trick in this product? So the magic trick is it's kind of like, you've seen Magnific AI.
I haven't no.
Do you have a computer in front of you?
Yeah,
Yeah, go to magnific.ai.
yeah.
Uh, and
Magic
they
upscaler
yeah, and they have this
transformer
like
design.
slider, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you go before and after, and you're
Yeah,
like, no
yeah,
way,
yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah,
It's almost like a
yeah,
magic trick. So what is that for?
yeah.
Oh, we didn't give it a didn't give it a name yet. The placeholder. Let's think
Yeah.
of the name. So it does
Page
these three
AI.
things. It's
Should it
landing
be
pages, marketing. What?
page AI? Could that
Page
be?
AI?
Yeah,
It's too not. It's too bland. Because the deployment ready part is
yeah,
because you can easily deploy, right?
yeah.
Ah, we can do page AI.
Yeah,
You know,
it's work in progress.
deployable is coming to me for some reason.
Ooh, deployable. I'm gonna write this down. Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
So
So what's the magic trick for
the
page AI?
magic the magic trick will be prompt on the left. That's just a couple it maybe looks a little bit like a chat. So like you give it a couple sentences, then there's like question answer, pretty simple. And then on the right, interactive landing page, maybe like in a mobile view. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual result of that, that you can click around, and you maybe have a small toggle where you can in real time still customize a little bit. So like change the color theme and font, for example, like not
Mm-hmm.
not the full blown thing, but just like customize a little bit that applies to the whole thing. So it feels a bit like magic. And it feels like this thing is really freaking easy to do. I can do it. Like if I could try it, I could do the same thing in
Yeah,
5 minutes
I
too.
like
Yeah.
that. I think it's like a three images next to each other
Mm-hmm.
that with arrows, right? So like the first image is the chat.
Mm-hmm.
The second image is the landing page with like all the customization UI on it,
Yeah.
right? And then the
Yeah.
third image is, or maybe four images. The third images is deploy, the button, like the giant
Mm-hmm.
deploy button, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
something, so that like it's like easy one click deploy. And then in the customization one, like the URL is like localhost, and in the whatever
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
deployed in the .com.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can say that, you know, from prompt to deployment in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you can have a video right above that or right underneath that you go and do those things. You just
Yeah.
have the,
Mm.
you have the chat, you customize it a little bit in the
Yeah.
customization UI, you hit deploy and it's
Yeah.
in the website, and then you can have visit website to see result or something like
Yeah.
that. So you
Yeah.
can
You could
kind of
actually go to the
uh,
to the full blown thing. Yeah, and experience it. And yeah.
you're like, no way, he did this in 3 steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
3 steps to fully deploy code or something like that. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, the three
Yeah.
yeah, it does sound magic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, that's what I'm going for. So just
I
kind of
like uh okay, what
making
are
you
the
feel.
quality factors here? Like
Yeah.
how
Um.
what's gonna make them say, wow, this is amazing?
I think in this, you mean in this demo specifically, or in the product itself?
And the product, yeah, like
And the product itself. Oh
the
yeah. So I
quality,
think
yeah,
in the
quality factor.
product itself, you will first get this wow. All right, no way it did this. No way actually got
It did
this
what? Like
already.
what specifically is
No,
gonna make them say that?
what we said in the demo.
Mm.
So
Oh, the 3 steps.
chat,
No way. Yeah.
yeah, 3 steps. Yeah, you actually got like your first version of the website, but then you turn on these toggles in the deploy, and you deploy it, and then you realize that there's actually extensive um, documentation. There's this component system that's pretty. It's very high quality code. That is, it's not just AI slop that works, but it's not reused. It's not. If you change something in one place, it's not gonna reflect on another page. All the classic stuff. It's actually good code, well documented, and you have everything you need to continue building this, and you're not just stuck with the MVP.
Yeah, that is definitely. So what are those high quality code factors? You said documentation. There's security. Does
Yeah.
it handle security? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I
What else?
think the winning part is the just crazy amount of examples and copy paste you can do to actually achieve this. I know if you saw this on the ShipXN website,
Hmm.
there is something called UI Component Explorer. Have you seen this?
Uh, templates, components. Yeah. See UI demos or see
Uh,
landing page demos.
I'll just link it to you. It's easier. But I can explain what it is. So it is essentially 211 demos of from basic accordions to entire dashboards, pretty much, and also building blocks, buttons, calendars, everything you pretty much might need to build after you've done the MVP, to continue building and to create
Mhm.
this app. And each of these you can copy paste, and it's gonna work. It's gonna look correct. It's gonna have the correct theme. It's gonna have all your customizations were applied to these, and they will just work pretty much. So it is, again, documentation, security, and this library of examples and
But that's
templates.
not the use case, right? Like, what do you mean the library of examples? Like you mean it's extensible, like the
It's
extensibility of it?
extensible. Yeah, it's extensible. It's actually the foundation of it allows you to compose all of these building blocks into full-blown apps. So it's extensible through and through. And you can see examples of how to extend it. And when you don't, you have documentation for these components to figure it out on your own,
I
if that
like
makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the quality factor so far, we got 3 steps to deployment,
Mm-hmm.
high quality code, meaning it's well documented, it's secure, it's extensible, it's customizable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? Like, why should the customer care about this more than something else? What are they judging?
Yeah, so I think everything that applies to Shipixon will apply to this as well because it will be built on the same API.
Hmm.
So I can just give you some examples. You will have a focus on SEO and having the correct meta tags
Hmm.
set up for you.
Vertical.
Some yeah.
I see what
You
you
will have search. You will have tags. You will have everything you need for the taxonomy of the blog to create relationships between the two.
Oh, it has a
Um,
built-in blog in it?
Yeah, so that's a toggle you can do in Shipping. So you could just say it's a markdown based blog though, so
Okay.
there's no CMS, but for all intents and purposes, it will work as a blog. Yeah,
Mm.
and then there's a lot of setup around this that you will get. There's what we want to do, and that's sort of the cherry on top is also generate a small logo for you and also generate a favicon, a sitemap, all the sort of
Mm.
tedious things that you need to, you cannot launch a product without those really, but I mean, you can, but
Mm.
it's not a good idea. You're probably going to eventually have to add them. It could do all these things for you. It could, you know, there's a lot of things to discover in the code base. Everything's responsive, mobile optimized. The navigation becomes the uh, mobile friendly,
Mm.
all that stuff. You still get that in Shipixon, but because it's built on the same um, code base, you will also inherit them with the SAP, even though it's not an initial selling. The initial selling point is you save time, you do it just for the prompt and those 3 or 4 images that we talked.
Mm.
At the end, you also get all of this other stuff that you didn't even know you're going to get that's going to make it even more valuable for you.
I like it. You should know about it because value is only
Mm.
understood when it's explained. Like it's only
Mm.
realized when it explains, you know?
So maybe some of those things that are meant for the Shipixon website should appear
Mhm.
on Page AI. I guess we agreed on the Page AI website as well.
Yeah, Page
Um,
AI or what do you call it? Deployable?
deployable. Yeah, that's the other one, deployable.
All right. So describe a five-star experience.
5-star experience. You go in, you don't even know the name of the thing that you're building, but you have pretty good idea of what it should do. You describe it. It takes you, just a couple of minutes to write 3-4 sentences. It asks you some things. It presents some names for you. It asks you about the style a little bit. It asks you about your business plan, your target group, and so on. Within 5 minutes, you have the first landing page. It blows your mind that actually not only that it looks convincing, it looks professional, but the content is actually not too bad either. So you can see you have to make some tweaks, but you could roll with it. You don't have anything better right now to put in the content too. And
Yeah, it's like up to this
yeah,
point, we haven't talked about copy at all.
yeah,
We're
it's
just
part of
calling it
it.
marketing, but like,
It's part
uh,
of it. Yeah, it's part of it.
yeah,
It's a big part of
copywriting
it.
is should
Yeah,
be
it's a
like
big
own
part of it.
section.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's one of the agents as well that will do that, and you might get prompted for some specific things.
Yeah, every
So,
agent I think should have a section on the website or something, just to
mm,
have. And you don't even have to call it an agent. Just there needs to be an agent that describes the value in the
yeah,
sections, right?
hmm
Of what
hmm
these agents are doing, so they can
yeah,
be like, what,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's yeah. Uh, in a how it works section, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how it
yeah,
works section of like even features, you
yeah,
know, because I always
yeah,
recommend like four main features to kind of actually showcase, right?
hmm
And right now you have like the creation part. you know. And
Yeah.
I think in that one you can even, yeah, that section, like the agent create,
Yeah.
like the agent creator or whatever, right? You
Yeah.
say, oh, just ask it, and then it uses these four things, and then maybe have the sections like that. Trying to think
Yeah. Hmm.
with you right
Hmm.
now, because
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because I have like the landing page formula, right?
Hmm.
That I came up with uh, from like roasting 1,000,
Yeah.
websites and all that, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there's always this like hero feature section, right? And in the
Hmm.
first showcase, it's gonna be definitely create a landing page in one prompt, right?
Hmm.
Or like some headline like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the image of that is, or the animation of that is the chat to landing page,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? And then the sub headline and the description, like I think sub headline is the description of how you deliver that, which is, we use blah 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 agent methodology to come up with the best whatever. And then I think maybe after that it's more like bullet points, and then each bullet point is each agent, right?
Hmm.
Your landing page will have first bullet point copywriting that adheres to SEO that
Yeah.
design that
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
like
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
bullet point things,
Yeah.
and bolding copywriting and then colon regular whatever for skimming. So they're like, oh, it's going to include, because they're going to just trust that whatever you write after the bolded copywriting is going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Something like that, to
Yeah.
kind of showcase everything about that, right?
That sounds very good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
then like the second feature is like customize to your liking. And then you show all the customization features and all the UI and whatever, right? And then you know, the deployment part is the third one, and you show you can include blog, you can include all the things you can include, right? And
Yeah.
then I have a section I call it the rest of the features, which doesn't have to be big showcases, but you
Hmm.
then say, and it's also secure, and it's also that, and it's like tiny, whatever, giant
Yeah. Yeah.
list of all the extra features, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
sounds
Like a
like,
grid of,
yeah,
yeah. That,
exactly.
mhm, yeah. Mhm.
SOC2, sort of, whatever, like,
Coming soon.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, all right. So that's the 5-star experience. Is five
Mhm.
minutes they go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
The content is good enough. Right.
Yeah. 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 It's good. And yeah, just to finish that thought, they press deploy. They maybe pick some of these options that we've discussed, enable blog, enable dashboard, whatever, and they get this awesome application. They open up the source code too, because they want to see, okay, what did it actually do, and they see it's like pretty solid source code, and something they can work with, and
Mm,
they're blown away.
I
So
love
yeah.
it. What is a 6-star experience?
6 star is not something I know how to solve right now, but it is, you can continue to iterate on this somehow
Mhm.
magically. You can still, go on and do more things, use the assistant agent flow to do more things, to do a features page, maybe, okay, we did a landing page, I want to do a features page too, I want to do, and I'm going to keep going. I want to modify this thing and just
Oh, so it's like,
continue.
oh, I see where you're going with this. So maybe, how, copy AI and,
Mhm.
Tebow's thing, what's it called? Uh, the
Yeah.
SEO thing, Outrank.
Outrank.
Yeah. And there's a couple, like a friend of mine selling, he built like Macaw. That was
Yeah,
nice.
it's
But this kind
SEO
of like
bot.
SEO blog
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
generation
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm. Yeah,
is
yeah,
that kind of the future for this? Is you just have
yeah,
them deal with the code, and then you just build these like marketing
yeah.
lead
And I,
magnets and stuff
yeah,
that
and I'm
are
not sure if those are integrations or part of the product, but what, you have to think of the journey. So what is the journey? You create this, but now what? You you need to manage this thing somehow. You need to continue building it. So yeah, that's where you have the blog. Maybe the reasonable thing to do is to continue to build your SEO. So all right, how do you get more articles on the blog? And maybe we can integrate Outrank and have it do that for you in an easy way, or maybe it works the other way around, that you do need to go to Outrank, but it can modify
Or maybe instead of blogs, just these like the marketing things, like marketing
yeah,
related items,
yeah,
pages,
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
you're saying,
yeah, yeah,
features page,
yeah,
like all the
comparison
SEO stuff. Like if you
pages,
go, yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah, mm-hmm,
developer relations page,
yeah,
maybe even like marketing, gimmicks. Like how HubSpot has like whatever website grader, and you
yeah,
go and it shows you the performance of it and whatever.
yeah, these
These kind of like
free
SEO
tools, yeah,
tools
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
like lead magnet stuff.
Lead magnets, yeah, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
for
but that's
sure.
not what you said. You said it's an iteration engine is kind of the next step. Is like you can say,
It
oh,
could
great.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
it could be, yeah. I think it's hard to figure out the direction right now. It will be somehow, the direction will be dictated by the customer, and you gotta have to figure out what that is, because it could go in so many directions, and you don't want to just
Yeah.
try to guess which one is the correct one.
Let's
You want to
try
hear it.
to think of the MVP agency owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're crushing it. They're pumping out landing pages because
Yeah,
they just have cycles, right? Like they're just
yeah,
doing the same thing over and over again because they're
yeah,
building an MVP and giving it to someone, and they're going to be like, great.
mm-hmm.
You know, Usually people who buy MVPs are people looking for funding, right?
Yeah,
So they go
mm-hmm.
get funding, they go get a development team, but like that is like the optimal workflow for an MVP agency, right?
Yeah,
So maybe like helping them with research, like kind of showcasing what the agents are doing to kind of teach them
mm-hmm.
about the like. Do you
Yeah,
think that is maybe a direction?
yeah, it could be. So if you're talking about this sort of cycle, perhaps offering tools to build this further doesn't make sense, because they've already handed it over to their customer, and it's out of their hands. So then
Mm,
the customer can do whatever they want with that code. It's um then you need to provide them better tooling for either before this flow, right, as you
mhm,
say, research, or to better satisfy the needs of their customers. So then I think we're back to, yeah, maybe they need multi-language, maybe they need
mhm,
specifics for e-commerce, let's say, or like you kind of expand some industries where they frequently deliver products. I guess there's, yeah, e-commerce is
mhm.
pretty big with that.
E-commerce, yeah,
Yeah,
customizing from the front end, like a
yeah, yeah,
customization view.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So more on, showcasing products, more on yeah, that
Yeah, so yeah,
yeah.
so like that's kind of like yeah, so maybe a shop like e-commerce stuff or just more client service things, which is like, hey, we'll let you build the because you know how you have the deploy checkmark things.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the checkmarks is the client like admin easy customization where you just go and you want to change the headline, boom, you can change it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, through the UI and stuff like that. All right, so it's more of those features. Is kind
Yeah.
of like the 6 star experience is like
Mm-hmm.
you anything you can think of in terms of how to make your client super happy is available with a like clickable button. Doesn't cost you more time.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, pitch deck creation.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Uh, Inciting incident. So the thing is, right now we're kind of torn between these. I don't think you're convinced with the target market. I think you think it's developers
Um,
in
yeah,
general.
I I'm not 100% sure, and I think it will become clear after the first demo sessions. That was the plan anyway. So
But it's
uh,
related to your two
yeah,
products. So what are the who are the users of that?
yeah. So that's the thing that for Shipixon, for example, the target group is around developers, right? Is around people that so the Shipixon is not made for agencies yet because it could be, but the output of it is more for your own usage, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, and the
you're
pricing of it is like that too,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
you just sell it almost like a
yeah,
one time
exactly, exactly.
like
So
boilerplate price.
it's positioned closer to these UI libraries. I don't know if you've seen Tailwind UI, which you buy once and you get all these components that it can use. You and that's it. So it is
So
perhaps
it is more
overlapping.
developer, yeah,
Yeah,
friendly.
more developer. Um, Also developers that there is an overlap. So those developers don't really have the design skills and the web development skills
Mhm.
and so on. Um, but also more towards the indie market. And
Mhm.
that was something that happened because as the community I'm part of,
Mhm.
but I don't want this new one to have that target group. I want to move out of that target group. I think the indie market is um it, there's a lot of competition and I would rather go B2B as you
Mhm.
said with the agencies and I think that sounds right for me for this product instead of the opposite would be get even smaller indie makers and individual developers. So
They don't
I'm
pay anything.
starting. No, they don't like to pay. So
Yeah, they
I'm
don't.
starting to lean into MVP agencies also because
Mhm.
of this, because you can price it higher when you do that. It is more difficult to get the initial customers though, and that's initially there might be a mix of all sorts of customers, and I think it will be a challenge to just say no to the wrong target group and just stick to the MVP agency
Mhm.
one and just make it good for them because that sounds like the right thing to do right now after
Yeah,
this talk
and it's
anyway.
appealing to the like how like Apple appears to the like the rebel inside you, like
Mm-hmm,
think
mm-hmm.
different guy that
Yeah,
lives in everybody. It's just appealing to the cracked coder who's
yeah,
pumping out tons of projects,
yeah,
and hitting that identity because that is the MVP agency owner or like solo owner
yeah,
is
yeah,
some dude who's
exactly.
just cracked and building like a ton of
Yes.
things, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you can
yeah,
appeal to them and talk to them in their language and specifics and like, hey, you don't have to
yeah,
set this up anymore. But he's like, oh well, I already built that. I can
yeah,
just pull it from whatever. Like now you're in this kind of thinking process of, well, okay, how do I create the language that does catch them?
yeah.
How do I make it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
you'll start thinking of objection handling better, I think, in that
yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So speaking of that, this is not planned, by the way. Like I used three or four. Speaking of that, let's go into the next question, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Uh, the inciting incident is uh, in storytelling. It's kind of like when in Super Mario, Bowser shows up, steals Peach, and now Mario has to go on a quest. That moment of Bowser stealing Peach is called an inciting incident.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is that incident for your target customer, the MVP agency owner? Like, at what point they're like, God damn it, I need a solution now.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
Um, yeah, that's a good one. So I think, yeah, if you're thinking MVP agencies, um, I think we need to go back to that time dimension of it. That I imagine there's a manager sitting down thinking, we we're got these requests backed up, and we cannot make it because we have these bottlenecks
Mm.
to do things from scratch. It always, we can see it's repetitive. We're trying to optimize it internally, but it's just not working out. People are coming and going. We cannot do this. Is there and then this thing comes in, and all of a sudden in 5 minutes you could do it, and they're just realizing, well, we don't have to do it ourselves. We could just use these guys and save a bunch of development resources.
So from what I'm hearing, to kind of make it into a moment
Mm-hmm.
is when the solo MVP agency owner turns into a team. Because
Yeah,
now you can't, like, if I hire someone, me sharing the snippets with them that they have to use and the code and all now becomes insane process.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where if it's
Mm-hmm.
just a solo, so your target is not even the solo MVP agency owner. Your target is an agency that has a team,
Yeah.
or the 9 to 5er who wants to start an MVP agency,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it's those two
yeah.
are the biggest one because they have that. The 9 to 5er
Mm-hmm.
is like, damn it, I
Yeah,
let's say they have a small brand online and they're getting requests and they're like, I just don't have the time. You
yeah,
can
yeah.
come
Mm-hmm.
in and be like, hey,
Cannot take,
don't
cannot
lose
take
that
this. Yeah,
business.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Use deployable
yeah,
to,
yeah.
to build
Deployable.
the
Yeah,
thing.
it's
Or
starting to stick.
the well,
It's starting to stick, the deployable.
yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Describe the most genius artist.
And most genius artist.
Yes.
Mm. I I keep staring at the Steve Jobs book in your background, and I think
Yeah.
that's what came to mind.
Yeah.
It's got to be Steve Jobs, right?
Steve
He
Jobs.
was an artist.
Mm,
He was an artist on stage, right?
mm,
What I think most of his WWC
mm,
slides, or whatever you want to call them,
mhm,
presentations, were the form of art, and
mm,
from in many ways, not
mm.
just one way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first one that came to mind.
I like it. And I like that you specified it's like his performance art.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
performance art.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. Have you seen Spartacus, the movie?
I have not, no.
Okay, so there's an old movie about this gladiator called Spartacus. And Spartacus was a gladiator that freed all the gladiators, or like created an army, and they rebelled against the Romans. Uh, so there's this scene where after a battle, the army is captured, and the Roman says, "Hey, tell us who Spartacus is, and we'll spare your life." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Spartacus goes to reveal himself, but then someone else is like, "I am Spartacus," and then another person, "I am Spartacus," and there's this like amazing scene where everybody says, "I am Spartacus," because they're like, Spartacus to them represents this kind of idea of
Yeah,
freedom and all of that, right?
yeah.
So, what
Mm-hmm.
is this "I am Dan" moment? Like, if someone, you replace yourself, I know your humility is not going to allow you to think of the right answer, but put that aside a little bit. And what is that moment like? What do you represent that people are willing to adopt as part of their
Yeah.
identity as well, and willing to sacrifice?
I think, yeah, I think it's still in this community part. I want me to be that example, perhaps, that people will find also as a moral compass, because that the there's some people that are making a lot of money but aren't exactly good examples to follow. I would like to be the one that you look at that and you think, oh, all right, this guy did it right. He was, you know, honest to himself and honest to his customers, and it's, sort of a um, morally correct way to build bootstrap businesses, right? If that
Totally.
makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and who are like these people that want to build in public,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or build open source that
It,
are
it,
morally correct? Who are our icons?
Yeah, so I think there's some people that you can see they've been doing this and not making a huge fuss about it, and they have been open. They have been um to say they've just been honest about their whole process. So uh Dimitro Krasun is the first guy that comes to mind, building
Mhm.
screenshot one. I think he's a very down to earth guy. You know, he's thankful for everything that he's got, and he's building a pretty solid business, and there's so much to learn from him. And I think that's, it's a good
I love it.
role
And
model
and
to
for
have.
your personal brand, you talked about brand being a core
Hmm.
pillar,
Yeah.
uh, or you want it to be a core pillar. What is the
Hmm.
bad signal for your brand? Right? Like, because you do the bad signal when crime
Hmm.
shows up, Batman comes and saves the day. For you, what is the signal and what is your response?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that really grind my gears. I think uh there's
It doesn't have to be
every
grind your gears. It can be just a moment of
yeah.
contribution. Like you hear that,
Oh,
you're
I just
like, hell
contribute.
yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
you
Okay,
show up.
now it's me.
Like
Yeah.
when do you show up,
Yeah.
basically? That's what I mean to the public
I show up
conversation.
I show up when the context is, it's a difficult time. I'm ready to give up. I've been trying this for a year. It's not working out, and I'd show up and say, this is not linear. You if you gotta figure out a way to keep going and to maybe pivot, try different things. Like I'm supporting you here. Don't give up. Keep going.
I
That's
love it.
kind of the, yeah. Mhm.
So this kind of like never give up mentality
Yeah, 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 yeah,
is like your banner.
yeah, yeah.
I like it. All right. Last question again.
Yep.
Imagine your life at peak impact.
Mhm.
I want you to draw that impact at that moment.
All right. So I'll show it to you.
Mhm.
It's
Hell
where
yeah.
is
I see.
oh, do you got
Yeah, yeah. Square,
okay.
triangle, circle,
Okay.
diamond.
So the top person is me. I think it relates to this bat signal. I'm the person who has helped the four. It's not four.
Mm.
It's a group of many people. I have helped them to overcome some difficult moments. And then the triangle, the square, they're all successful products that they've made because I had an impact in their journey and kept them going. And they are here because that, one moment where I was supportive and they managed to just keep going because I said something.
Love it. It's great.
Hmm?
Yeah.